So the topic, as you can see on the screen, is beauty needs brain and why character outshines charm. Before we go into the message itself, just wanted to start with a story. So when I was in college, there were these two girls along with me. One was fair and very beautiful. The other girl was also good looking, but she was dark. And the girl who was dark always had a complex, saying, I'm not good looking because I'm dark, and nobody will like me, nobody will love me. And to this day, she's not married, because she never thought she was worthy of being loved just because she was dark skinned. But her features were very beautiful, and she's a very nice person. Not that the person who was beautiful wasn't a nice person, but because she was beautiful and fair and tall, and a lot of the boys were after her. And the thing was, she didn't know why the boys were after her. She didn't know whether they truly cared for her or they were coming only because of her looks. And there were many of them proposing to her. Every week there'd be a new guy proposing, and we would enjoy the flowers and the cake and the chocolates she got. But she was always confused who cared for her, because she really wasn't sure till date. Now she's married, of course, and she knows the person cares for her, not for just her looks, but the person she is. But at that young age, she just didn't know, because right from school there were a lot of people who proposed to her, but she wasn't ever sure why they were. And why am I saying this? In this world, and I think this topic, or this topic is so important now in this world, because we are so carried away with the outward looks of people. We don't sometimes tend to look at what is inside. Sometimes you buy a beautiful fruit, you pay a lot of money. Fruits are so expensive these days. You go pick out a lovely apple, it looks red and shiny and everything, and then you cut it and inside is worms. That's how it is with people these days. I'm not saying everybody is like that, but many people are like that. And we tend to get carried away with just their looks, with how they appear outside. And that is where this topic is very, very important right now. The portion we're going to look at is Proverbs chapter 11, verse 22. It says, as the ring of gold in a swine's snout, snout means nose, so is a beautiful woman who is without discretion. Her lack of character mocks her beauty. I've taken it from the Amplified because I like the way it said, her lack of character mocks her beauty. Now the guys sitting here, majority are guys today, so please don't think, it talks about a beautiful woman, it doesn't apply to me. No. We are not looking at, we're taking this verse and applying it generally. This was a metaphor, okay? If you looked at Proverbs, many of it was in different styles. So here they're giving two contrasting things. So one is a beautiful woman and one is a pig, okay? There is no comparison between the two. But if you look at it, they're giving the thing saying, a woman wearing a gold nose ring. In those days, the nose ring is not like how they put it here. It would be here, okay? It would actually come above the mouth and you could lift it. And for the pig, apparently they used, I put the picture, I was wondering how the picture was like, you could get picture with the pigs with nose on their rings. Apparently, that was the practice at that time, that they would put an iron ring on the nose of a pig so that it would not go dig in the dirt. The ring would stop it from digging into the dirt. Otherwise, it would use its nose to go dig into the dirt. So that is where, so they're giving a contrast over here of a beautiful woman who's adorned with gold, and if her character is not good, okay? So if she's without discretion, then her beauty itself is mocked. The jewelry doesn't add to her beauty. It is only mocking at her beauty. So if you would you put a gold ring on a pig? No way, right? I don't know if you've seen pigs. As a child, I used to see, there used to be a lot of pigs running around my street. And the pigs don't look cute. In movies, they show as cute. Maybe abroad, the pigs are pink. Our pigs used to be dirty gray. And they would eat muck. You would not go pet a pig, even if they paid you 1 lakh. Because they were dirty creatures. They still are dirty creatures. And again, the context is, if you look at in the Israelites, the pig was a dirty animal. They were not to touch it also. If they touched it, then they had to do the cleansing ceremony. So that is how they're giving the contrast, saying a beautiful person or a person looking good with no character is equivalent to putting gold on a pig. Okay, the value is lost. Okay, or the adornment mocks the beauty. Okay, so that's the context with which we're looking today. And I just have about 4 points to share with you. I think this is my shortest message ever. But still, I think when I have short points, there are lots the Lord speaks through me. So Anyway, so I'm going to start with the first thing of discretion, okay, the word discretion. The meaning I'm giving it here, the dictionary meaning I'm not taking, but from a slightly biblical meaning, is that what does it mean to have discretion? Because it talks about in many verses, if you see, it will say a woman without discretion, or she refused to discretion, or she turned away from discretion. And it talks about good character, okay, integrity and wisdom. But the meaning here we're looking at, so when I use the word discretion, is this meaning. The capacity to closely assess something. So they have assessing power, or they have discerning power. They're able to look at a situation or a person and assess it correctly, making informed and wise choices. So they're not impulsively making decisions or choices. They are collecting information about it, thinking about it, understanding it, and then choices, which is rooted, the choices are rooted in a deep understanding of God's principles and truth. So we're looking at a biblical decision making. So the person knows the biblical principles and truth, and based on that, they're making wise and informed choices after assessing the situation. So they're not impulsive, they're not listening to other people, they're not listening to the news, they're not listening, like Pastor said, there are so many people talking so many things, okay, just about the crash. So for everything, 10 people have different views. So we are not just listening to all of them, we are taking time to assess it for ourselves. If someone is saying something, we're not blindly following it, we're listening, understanding it, then getting information about it from other places, okay, and then we are looking at what God says, what's God's principles and truth, and based on that, we're making choices. Now think of yourself, how do you make choices in life? A lot of times, it's impulsive. A lot of times, others have forced you to do it. You have not thought about it. Okay? A lot of times, it's what others are saying. Very little we are using our own mind and wisdom. Sometimes we've done some things which are against what God is telling us, just because the majority is doing it. And there is a thing, right? If majority are doing it, doesn't make it right. Sometimes you might be the only one, standing upright. So this is the word discretion. This is the meaning I'm using when I'm going to be using it in the rest of the message. So please keep that in mind. So the first point that I want to talk about is do not be taken in by physical appearance, just physical appearance. That's what we tend to do. Okay? I've asked this before and I will ask it now. So if two people walked in, say an Aishwarya Rai walked in, and a beggar walked in, or somebody who looked like a beggar with tattered clothes, who hadn't eaten for some time, unkept hair, who would you go speak to? Or who would you welcome? I'm sure we'd all rush to Aishwarya Rai, want to take a selfie and all of that, and this other person will actually shoo them away. That's what we generally would do. Who needs the church more? I think both of them would need, but how would we treat them? That's how. So we are always taken in by physical appearance. So then is beauty bad? No. Beauty is to be admired, otherwise God wouldn't have created beauty. There's beauty in creation, there's beauty in people, and we also say, right, beauty is in the eye of a beholder. For a mother, the child, no matter how disfigured or not, how fair or dark or not, the baby is beautiful. For you and me, that baby may not be beautiful. But for the mother, that baby is beautiful, no matter how the baby is, okay? It's her flesh, it's her blood. And she bore it for 10 months. So for her, the baby is beautiful. So yes, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, but God also created beauty. So it is to be admired, for sure. Okay? But beauty alone is not to be admired. Because beauty is very superficial. If you look at, the thriving plastic surgery industry, right? It's because beauty alone has been projected. Even guys are going under the knife these days. Earlier, it was only the women who were going under it. I have a small scar on my nose. Very few of you would have even noticed it. Not that my glasses cover it. Even otherwise, I don't bother about it. I even forget that it's there. But it's there. I've had it from the time I've been 3 years old. So it's become a part of me and I don't bother about it because nobody made a big deal about it. If my mom had made a big deal about it, then I would have still been conscious. Maybe I would have used makeup to cover it, and all of that. But you have to be happy with who you are. Come to that next, but yeah. So the plastic surgery industry is because people want to stay young. There are people, I've shared this too, there is a guy who spends $1 million or $1 billion a year to stay young. He even takes blood transfusion from his son, who is 25, so that he will stay young. And he's doing everything and anything possible to stay young, to look young, to his body to be young. And I'm like, okay, good to be young, I'm not saying no. But in the inside, if you're so filled with the fear of growing old, where are you living? Right? So the physical appearance is there. Yes, it is important, I'm not saying no, but that alone is not enough. A lot of times, like I talked about my friends, right, the fair and the dark, both of them are beautiful people, both of them are still my friends. But I feel very sad for this girl who's dark, because she's never, cared for anybody or let anybody care for her, just because of the color of her skin. But even now, you take up matrimonial things, you see fair, the first thing is fair. Nobody asks for a dark bride. The guy will be pitch black, you can actually take off the color and paint, but they will want a fair bride. Why? I mean, you look at the character of the person. The other day, somebody else also was arguing, saying, these days they're not looking for a good boy for getting married. They're looking at, are they, wealthy? Do they have this? Do they have that? Are they fair? Are they good looking? Do they have these habits? They're not looking at, is the person good? And because we're looking at only physical appearance, okay? We're looking at tall, maybe perfect features. Nobody has perfect features. Even Aishwarya Rai has a flaw somewhere, okay? But that adds to your beauty. Otherwise, and the makeup industry, it's thriving only because of physical appearance. And these days, I had a friend tell me in London many years ago, even now, 8 to 10-year-olds are buying makeup. I was thinking, when I was 8, I didn't even know what makeup was. Okay, I'm not saying you shouldn't use makeup. You use it. No, it's not a problem at all. But don't, some people are there, they put so much makeup and they remove it, you don't recognize them as who they are. Only with makeup you can recognize them. Okay, or they're so obsessed that without it they will not walk out. Okay, so my thing is, yes, you should, have all of that. But don't focus on only someone, who's only physically beautiful. Or what they own. They have cars, they have bungalows, they're in a high position. And then you don't look at somebody who's, maybe not having all of those. So you don't respect those people, okay? What do they say? The smooth talkers, as you call them. All the scams that are happening are because of smooth talkers. They know how to come, put up a show, you will get pulled in, and then you lose everything, okay? So don't go by only physical appearance. That's the first thing I think this verse is saying, because physical appearance is important, but it is not everything, okay? The next one, so that is when you're looking at others. When we look at ourselves, do not pursue just outward beauty, even for ourselves, okay? What do I mean by that? So don't focus too much on your looks. Again, plastic surgery is there, makeup is there. There are a lot of people who spend so much on clothes, on makeup, on the cars, whatever, but inside they don't spend time, not even time, leave alone money, to become better as a person. So let's not be like that. Because if we are doing only the outward, then it is as gold on a pig. Okay? Of course, being groomed and dressing appropriate for occasions is important. It would have been difficult if most of you had come with your sleep attire to church. Okay? Whatever you wear for sleeping. Okay? Because in church we expect a certain way. We are not saying, this is what you need to do. Of course, your heart is important, but there is a little bit of decorum that is also maintained. Imagine going to office in your sleep attire or in shorts. We did it during COVID because only chest up would be seen, so there alone was, you could be wearing anything, and below it didn't matter. But now you're going to office, right? Or you go meet people and stuff. So different industries would require different attire, okay? So you look at that. So be groomed, but don't only focus on that. Right? Because looks without character has no value. Initially, maybe you'll be taken in by the looks, but if you can't have a conversation with them, right? If they're empty, we always say, right, empty vessels make the most noise. If they're empty, then you cannot, even like, somebody who marries for looks, over time will get so bored because they can't have a conversation, they can't take decisions, nothing will be happening. It'll be only the looks, and looks, which over time will really be boring. What happens if the looks goes? What will you do? Something happens, the looks goes, or they grow older. Then what will you do? Right? So, beyond the looks, please look at character for yourself. Because it's like a gold ring on a pig's nose. And be more concerned with how you reflect God's character than just how you look. Because God itself is interested more in our heart. So, our focus as children of God is to reflect God's character. Because we are God's representatives here on earth. So our focus should be to reflect God's character to the world, because the world will know God only through us. I often say this, right? We are the 67th book in the Bible. Many people will not touch the Bible. Even if you give them a New Testament, a Gideon's small one, where we used to get those colorful ones as kids, right? Only with the New Testament, Psalms and Proverbs. People would pick it up but be scared to take it home. Because the parents might, I studied in a Catholic school, so we used to get that pretty often. But many of them would read it in school or keep it with them in school, but were scared to take it home because at home they would be taught differently. So even your neighbors, if you go give a Bible, they may not look at it. They may not want it in their house. There'll be a fear connected with it. But they would look at you and they would look at your life. If it is reflecting the character, the love, the grace, the mercy of God, then you have a better chance of talking to them about God and for them to come to the Lord. So our focus should be to reflect or be concerned more with reflecting the God's character than just our looks. I'm not saying don't focus on your looks, please do. But also, let that not be the only focus. Okay? The third point is do not demote the value of character. Because a person's character is what truly defines their worth. Okay? So I have seen, we've also seen, right, many top bosses in corporates fell, or the company fell because of a lack of integrity there. They were either corrupt or they were making money for themselves. They were not bothered about people. We used to have all these Ponzi schemes. Rajaram Nagar was the hub of it in Salem. I would see people walk past my house, go and put their savings there, because if you put 1,000, they'll give you 2,000 tomorrow. Then you put that 2,000, they'll give you 4,000 tomorrow. Then one day nobody will be there, all money gone. And it happened, I think, 3 times. Here only was, and because of that I know, because people were talking about it, sitting outside my house and crying, saying, they cheated us. Anywhere the fast rich scheme comes, it's a smooth talker that's happened, and they didn't have character, right? So our true worth comes from our character, not our looks, because looks can fade. Sometimes we might be in an industry, nobody even looks at us. But our integrity is what will make it work. So if you look, even now, as recently as 2-3 months ago in Bombay it happened. There was this jewelry showroom, did this Ponzi scheme. They had opened out 3-4 jewelry showrooms in Bombay in 2-3 places, and they started, okay, you give us this much, we'll double it in so much. And they did that and took a lot of money, some crores, and then they vanished overnight. And the manager also was just a dummy piece over there. But he was very smart and good talker and everything. They were searching for him, but it was apparently a Russian ring that had done it and taken all the money. So your character is very important. So when you look at people, who will you respect? Unfortunately, in the world today, we go by appearance, we go by talk, we go by who has more money, who has more power, we don't look at character. If someone has character, then we assassinate it. Okay? And they can't stand for long, because we'll find so many different lies to actually bring them down. Even the 2 pilots who passed away in the crash, right? The amount of speculation of are they good enough to fly? And people came, no, they had so many hours for flight. But still they were questioning. And there's a lovely poem by another pilot who had said, just put 38 seconds on your phone and tell me what you can do in 38 seconds. Because by the time you put it on off only, it's 38 seconds. So he says, in a crisis situation, with the flight of 242, plus these two, whatever, think in 38 seconds, there is, either systems are failing or something is happening. So the thing of, the back of your head is so many lives, plus the plane, and whatever is happening, we still don't know what has happened. Again, there is speculation on it. People have been saying, okay, and the fact is also they could have crashed it on a residential area. This was only a hostel. In a residential area, more thousands would have died. Okay? And the blast, because it was full of fuel, was so hot. They said no animal or bird also survived in that particular radius. So the pilot said, the other pilot said, think in 38 seconds in a crisis situation, what decision can you take when things are failing around you? It's very easy after the fact, not having sat there, to tell anything and everything. Think of yourself if you've gone through a trauma and someone tells you, oh, get over it. It's not easy. You have to have been in that situation to even know that getting over it takes a bit of effort and time. Okay? Because there's a lot of hurt that has to be healed. There's a lot of confidence that has to be regained. There's a lot of wrong beliefs that you have to overcome because you've been conditioned over a period of time, or that has hit you. Okay? So focus on your character. Don't demote the value of character. Though the world is demoting it, I think we should stand apart, because standing for Christ is always standing alone, most of the time standing alone and standing differently. That is why we are called holy or set apart. We are in the crowd, but we are apart. We have to be different. Jesus was like that, right? When he was among the Israelites, you had the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and you had the laymen. But he still stood his ground, said, yes, this is the truth and this is what I'm going to stand for. And that's what he's calling us to do. And again, he says, I've already set the example, follow my example. So focus on character, whether it's in yourself or other people. Don't turn away from discretion. We already looked at what discretion was. Because when you turn away from discretion, that is where your looks are equivalent to putting gold on a pig. Okay? Because you can use your appeal, your influence and respect. Right? I knew someone who was very corrupt. I could never for the life of me ever be able to respect them. I had to show respect, but was not from deeper than me. Because I knew they were corrupt. How can you respect somebody who's corrupt? I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm not corrupt for sure. And they were blatantly corrupt. Initially, I didn't know that. So I used to, be nice with them. But once I knew it, I wouldn't even want to go talk to them or ask them for anything, because I knew they will ask me for a bribe. So in the long run, if you want to have appeal or people to like you, to have influence over people or respect, then character or discretion is very, very important. So don't demote it. Without discretion, okay, a person can become morally and sexually unclean. Why? Because you will not have no boundaries. You won't know what is right and wrong. Because right and wrong is in the standards of God. We already looked at wisdom. Is knowing what is right and wrong as per God's standards, not what you and I say or what the world is saying. Okay, I used to remember as a kid, I used to love reading this agony aunts, it used to be called. We used to write to people in magazines saying, dear so-and-so, this is the problem I have. What can I do? And they would give you a very earthly reply. It was never biblical. Okay? So they would give you things like, do this and do that. And it was never biblical. Right? So, but I used to love reading it just to see what problems people have and what's happening. But again, if you're asking advice from the wrong people, you're going to get the wrong advice. Whenever you need advice or whenever go to the Bible. Bible has a solution for everything. And go to godly people who are living the life as per the Bible. Okay? Because then they will teach you the right path. You will set the right boundaries. Having no boundaries is not right. You need to have boundaries. Even Jesus had boundaries. He knew when to stay in a place, when to move away, when to argue with people or even state his case, and when they said something to keep quiet. That is the wisdom we need to have. And that will come only when we have boundaries and when we have discretion. Because then we will know the situation. We will know why that person is coming against us. Sometimes there are people who will argue with you for just arguing. It's a waste of time. Because no matter what you tell them about your side of the thing, they're not going to listen. I still remember, I can still picture it. I was living in a working women's hostel, and right at the doorway, one girl who was very set in her ways came and argued with me for something. For 45 minutes we were arguing. My leg was aching. Finally I said, look, I'm not going to change my point of view. You're not going to change your point of view. Let's agree to disagree. No, she started. I said, I'm sorry, I don't have time, I'm going. For 45 minutes I tried. Okay, we were not fighting, but we were, trying to share our cases and, that way. But even there, I needed the discretion saying, okay, fine, this one's not going to change her mind, she's not going to change my mind, let's leave it at that. But agreeing to agree also, she was not agreeing. But finally, I had to take a call and say, forget it, boss, I'm not wasting my time over here. With some people, if you give logical answers, right, they will at least think about it, even if they don't change their attitude or thinking. That is where our discretion is important. And that is why the boundary is important. The next time I saw that girl, I'm like, I'm not even talking to you. I'm not wasting my time. I don't have that time. Okay? So having those boundaries is very important. Who will you let in to the, into your space? Okay? Whose thoughts or whose ideas, whose opinion is important to you? For a lot of us, the world's opinion is important because we don't have a boundary. And then it becomes the story, right? There were the father and the son with a donkey walking on the road. And then somebody looked and said, what stupid you're doing? You have a donkey and both of you are walking. So then the son sat on the donkey and they were walking. Then somebody looked and said, look at the stupid son. The father is so old, he's sitting on the donkey, let the father sit. Then, okay, they moved off. So the father sat on the donkey, the son was sitting down, and the three were walking. Then somebody else said, what stupidity, both of you sit on the donkey. So people will have every view. Finally, the donkey sat down and said, you both go, I'm not walking. Okay? You can turn that story any which way you want. But this is it. If we listen to the world without boundaries, then we will be utterly confused at the end of it and totally tired, because everybody will have an opinion opposing to the other opinion. So having boundaries is very, very important. Having the right boundaries is very, very important. And that is why the discretion is important. So when we don't have discretion, we don't have boundaries. And then we have no wisdom also, because we are choosing to push away godly wisdom. We're choosing to follow what we think is right. That is where the world comes, right? The book Secret also talks about do what you feel like, what makes you happy. No way. For somebody, a serial killer killing people only is making him happy. Is it okay to do? No. Right? For somebody who's raping people, that only is giving him happiness. Can he go and do? Will you allow it? Then how can you say if it makes you happy, if you feel good about it, go and do? No, it doesn't happen. God never says that. He says these are the things you can do and these are the things you cannot do. And whatever you do in love. So murdering people and raping people is not in love. Isn't it? So then that boundary has to be there. Okay, and that wisdom is very, very important. The discretion is very, very important. Otherwise, when we have no discretion, we also will get involved with the wrong people. Okay, we'll get involved in the wrong activities and we'll get involved with the wrong beliefs. We'll forget what the Bible is saying. And that is why discretion is very, very important. And that is why we should not demote the value of character. Doesn't matter what the world is saying. Let us choose to stand apart saying, no, I will be a child of God. I will follow what my Father says. Because I want to please my Father and not the world. It's a little difficult because we're living in the world. But we have to have eternity in our mind, right? So that is where we need to say, no, if it is wrong, it is wrong. I don't care if everybody is doing it. I will stand with my Father, for my Father, and that is where I will not get involved. I will have discretion and not get involved with the wrong people, not get involved with wrong activities or wrong beliefs. I'm not saying don't go talk to wrong people. It's okay, because only if you talk to them and include them and show them God's love, there is a chance they can turn away from their wrong ways. Okay? But I'm saying don't go associate, don't get into business with them. That's the most stupidest thing we can do. When we know they are wrong, we have the wrong motives, they don't do things in the right way, they're cheating people, don't go get into business. Why would you do that? Okay, even if they are smooth talkers. And lastly, the lack of discretion diminishes the value of physical beauty. So if a person is very beautiful but has no character, they're having affairs all around, they're doing things for money, or they're breaking marriages, they're doing all sorts of things, will you respect them? No. You shouldn't actually. If you do, stop. Because that is what then you'll be supporting. Because when we will do that only when we demote the value of character. So our physical beauty is only skin deep. We always say that. We've forgotten that. We don't say those things these days. It is only skin deep. It can go at any point of time. You can get a blemish on your skin, you can get an acne or a scar on your face, then what happens? Does that diminish your value as a person? No. But that's what we do. For me, I learned it at a very young age. My mother, when she was born, within her first few days, she had smallpox. And in fact, they thought she was going to die, and they gave her Cadbury's milk chocolate and something else as a baby. Because she had, and they thought she was going to die, and my grandmother wouldn't give her mother's milk because she already has smallpox, and she didn't want to get it. My grandmother didn't want to get it. But by the grace of God, I'm sure the Lord, had us and all in mind, so she survived. But she always had pockmarks on her face. And some parts of her body would be very smooth because the scar would be that big. So as a child, I got used to seeing my mother. And I would never flinch even today if I saw someone with a scar or something on their face or anywhere in their body. Whereas I've seen other people look at my mom and flinch. And that taught me how much it hurts. So for me, from childhood, I learned that physical beauty is not anything, but look at the heart. Because I've seen other really beautiful women I've known whose character has not been good. Whereas my mom stuck to certain, I'm not saying she's perfect, but in her way she stuck to certain principles. She was a doctor. She refused to do abortion at any cost. She said, I won't do it. Till date she had not done. She was topper in her college, but she said, no, I will not do it. Even if it is natural, I will not do it. You please go get it done elsewhere. That is against my principle. And she wasn't even a Christian then. She came to the Lord much later. But she stuck to her principle. Right? Why am I saying this? So, beauty is only skin deep. Look at the heart of the person. Very, very important. So, don't demote the value of character, even if the world does. The fourth point I would like to share with you is what we have been talking all this year as we were doing the book of Proverbs, is pursue the wisdom of God. Reiterating it. I know we're talking about it, but this is what this particular verse also talks about. It says, pursue the wisdom of God, because you need the discretion. Right? And for that you need the wisdom of God. You need to consciously choose to pursue the wisdom of God, which is going to be different from the world. When the world is, all your movies and people doing things are revenge. I will go take revenge. God says forgive. How many of us will easily forgive? That's one of the toughest things for Christians, even Christians. That's one whenever I talk to people saying forgive, no. Immediately, without even thinking the second, but God says forgive. And the Lord's Prayer says, forgive me as I forgive other people. So that means if you don't forgive, God's not forgiving you. It says if you take an offering to the altar and you know you have a problem with your brother, leave the offering there, go first, get reconciled, then come back and give the offering. How many of us are fighting with our brothers and sisters, our relatives, our friends, with our neighbors, and not actually pursuing the wisdom of God? Let me tell you, when you start forgiving, there's so much of peace. Because you're not God. Even if you want to go vindicate, you don't know where to go hit them, where it will hurt. God knows. Even if He doesn't vindicate you, it's fine, because your reward is in heaven. It takes a lot of faith to get there. And the thing is, forgiveness is not a feeling, because feeling again is very superficial. It's not an emotion. Yesterday only I was attending an emotional intelligence class, and they said your emotion comes from two places. One is your thoughts. So your thoughts, the more you're thinking about something, that will create an emotion in you. And the more you feel something physically or in parts of your body, you will get an emotion. These are the only two places in emotion. And how do you control it? You change your thoughts. If it's your thoughts, it's creating a particular, say you're angry. If you have to calm it down, 1 to 10 counting and all, not happening. This has to change. You have to say it was an eye-opener for me actually. You have to change your thought. It has happened for me, but I didn't realize I had done it. The theory part I didn't know, the practical I had already done. I then realized, yes, I had changed my thought. That's why now I'm not angry at so-and-so. I had to forgive somebody. I had to change my thinking. Same way, bodily. Sometimes they said, okay, you're feeling angry, you're feeling this, ground yourself. They said, if you're sitting in the chair, feel your bottom. Because that is the one that has support. If you don't have a chair, go lean against a wall. Very beautifully said, and it actually made a difference. And that's what we need to do. We need to choose. We have to be conscious to do. And they said this, we're teaching you techniques, but if you don't practice it, when tomorrow you're angry, it's not going to help, because you won't remember it. Because when you're angry, your mind is only on the feeling bit. It's not thinking logically. It's not connected. Okay? So we have to consciously pursue God's wisdom even when things are fine, so that when things get a problem, we are still using that wisdom. We have to choose discretion too. That is, we are taking decisions after thinking it through, using the principles and the ways of God. Okay? Choosing to act wisely, sensibly, and with self-control. A lot of people don't have self-control. We might have wisdom, we might have sensibility, but we don't have the self-control. That's why we're going and killing people, fighting with people, hitting people on the road. Road rage is because of that only. Sometime back, Christmas time, one man was crossing the road and he put his hand out for two boys on a bike to slow down. They got down and beat him to death. It happened. I saw it and I was shocked. There's no self-control. Imagine just selling somebody, and it was an older man. He was just crossing the road in a busy road and he just put his hand. These guys were speeding because they had to stop. They got off the bike, came and hit him to death. Very scary. These days, self-control we don't see. And as children of God, we need to have self-control. Okay? And true beauty comes from a heart that seeks to please God. And what pleases God? Our faith and our obedience. Nothing else pleases God. Our wants don't please God. Our praises don't please God if we are not obedient. When, if you looked at the Israelites when they were fasting and all that, he said, forget all that. When they were giving offering, he said, forget all that. Change your heart first. If you don't have the right heart towards me, don't even come to me. Why are you bothering? I don't want empty praise. Your life is not pleasing to me, but you're praising me. Wow. We think of children. If you have children and you go to your parents after disobeying them and then say, Mommy, I'm like, don't come to me. Why? Because if you don't obey me, you're telling me you don't care for me, you don't love me. Then anything else you come with is empty. Just like your beauty is empty. Okay, and the last point is respect, seek, and pursue character. I already said, right, look at character. It's very, very important. Why am I emphasizing here is, one, we don't demote character, but we need to seek to build character, because the world around us is not giving us the right example. But luckily for us, Jesus has. And He also has given us the Holy Spirit who will guide us in this. That's why when we transform, when the Holy Spirit is in us and we are believers and we are letting the Lord work in us, our life is transformed. And the thing that's transformed is our character. Think of the fruit of the Spirit. It is character building. Because it's love, joy, peace, long suffering. Right? So it comes only from the Lord. The other day I was listening to a teaching and it said, oh, I give. I'm not proud, I'm not being prideful to say, oh, I give here and I give there. I give very quietly. But that is also a transformation of the Holy Spirit. It's not me. That was an eye-opener. Saying, oh, hey, I give, but that was also not me. The Lord has transformed me to also be generous, because that's also a fruit of the Spirit. Okay? So we have to pursue character. We need to seek, respect and pursue character, because God always sees our heart and our motives. We see it in 1 Samuel 16, where he says, I see the heart. People see the rest of it, but I see the heart. And Matthew also talks about in chapter 23, he says, don't be like whitewashed tombs, who are full of decay inside. Outside everything like the apple, right? The red apple looked very nice, but inside was fully worms. No, don't be like that. Inside also be as good as outside. That's why God says, no, you will prosper as much as your soul prospers. So inside is more important than outside. And God's transformation is always inside out, not outside in. Because he's more worried about our, what we are inside. So we too should look for and respect people for their character rather than merely their appearance. Don't get carried away by appearance. Value virtue and character, because looks are secondary to character. And our appearance should adorn our character, not the other way around. So our character is most important. Whatever we put on top of ourselves is just adding to that character, instead of putting everything outside and hiding that character. The other way around is that, because your character is so bad, you have to do everything outside so that people don't see the bad character inside of you. Okay, so appearance should adorn our character, and true worth comes from character and godliness. Because God looks at our character, and are we in a godly manner walking our life? Only then there is worth. Otherwise, the world might give you worth. When you go to heaven, when the second coming happens, God's going to maybe put you as goat and not the sheep. Because the sheep will follow what the shepherd is saying, and this is what the shepherd is telling us. He says your character is more important than your looks. And the next slide, please. So God loves us so much that he calls us to live with discretion, integrity and wisdom. Why? Because God is protecting us from the emptiness that comes from focusing solely on outward appearance. And by that, he's leading us to live a life that is respected and honored. And we also should honor this in other people in return. Because what we look for is what we will find. I remember when I was doing my training in the corporate, we used to say, look for gold. What do you mean? When people in those days in the gold rush in the US would go find gold, okay, it would be in the river. You could actually find gold nuggets in the river. What they used to do was take a sieve, like nama jallad and so on. They used to take that. It used to be a little bigger, not like how we have at home. The holes will be a little bigger. They'll put it and take it along with the sand and the water, and then shake it off where the sand and the water run away, and then only the gold will stay. They didn't go looking for the sand. They went looking for the gold. So we also will find what we're looking for. So if we look at character rather than looks, we will find character. If we look at looks and not character, then we will find looks. So like we are searching for the gold, let's search for character in ourselves and in people. Right? Let's pray.